Hi, everyone. Welcome to Pink Nest podcast. I'm having Tom with me today. He's originally from the UK, worked in a city for 15 years, and now he's in Thailand with his wife and two kids, trying to live a life to the full and prove there is a non-standard way. I love this description. Non-standard way of life rather than following what everyone else does. Well, I cannot agree with this more. It's very a philosophy I'm trying to utilize and live it as well. So welcome to Pink Nest.
Thank you very much. We've moved to Malaysia now. So we were in Thailand, but we used up all of our visa days over there. And yeah, we're now over in Malaysia, but the concept is still the same. We're still trying to escape the norm, escape society and live life to the full.
That's amazing. Let's start with your childhood. This is usually how every interview starts. What was your childhood like growing up in the UK? And what was Tom like a kid?
Yeah, I think if I compare, because I know a lot of people say your childhood kind of shapes how you are as an adult. I don't think my childhood could have been much different to how I am now. Not that it was a bad childhood at all, but yeah, I think now I'm obviously that adventurer. I'm trying to like break the norm. But I think as a kid, I was very much a rule follower. But I think you're a product of your own environment. Not any kind of disrespect to the way I was brought up, but yeah, I think I was very much, follow the rules, and just live that way really. But I think as life kind of went on and as I've grown up, I think I've just rediscovered exactly who I am, and I've found who I am now. And I think that's really helped me on my journey to obviously be over here in Malaysia, traveling the world and things like that.
So when we say the city, we mean London. For those listening from the States, maybe they don't know. But
yeah, correct.
So you've spent 15 years working in London. What drew you to that world, and what did those early years feel like? Because I know that London also changed in the last 10 to 15 years a lot, and it's much different than it was.
Yeah, so I guess it's kind of cliche, but I kind of fell into my career. I left sixth form, didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I think it was my old head of year. She knew someone who worked in the city, and yeah, I kind of started working there. And yeah, I guess I was just drawn to just like the energy of the city. I think it's a bit of a nice thing if you're from the UK. Working in London's a bit of a prestigious thing. So yeah, started working in London and was just really really drawn in really just to being in London, being in that vibe, being with a kind of history everywhere. And yeah, I guess it's just, kind of fell into it, never looked back until about 3 years ago when I left the city. But during those 15 years, absolutely loved it. It really changed over COVID. I think prior to COVID, obviously, everyone worked 5 days a week in the city. It was like a really busy place, but yeah, it changed obviously since then. Obviously I'm not in the city now, but I know it's slowly getting back to what it used to be. But it's still definitely not as busy as it was kind of prior to 2020.
And in your career, what defined success? So what would you say were those parameters that defined, okay, this person is really successful?
Yeah, I think that was really skewed by working up in London because you are surrounded by money ultimately. I think when I first started, I was only on probably 13,000, 14,000, but you're surrounded by people that are on six figures plus. And I think it was almost a bit of a detriment really, because I just tied success to having money and having that kind of materialistic stuff. So if you can go on nice holidays, if you have got, a nice car, a nice house, if you've got money to spend on stuff, that in my opinion, back then when I was 18, that was what success looked like to me. I think as I've grown up, that view's changed, but certainly when I was younger, it was definitely tied to money and your kind of title at work and how you really kind of portrayed yourself to other people.
But I think this is pretty common. I mean, I have two kids who are now in the stage of looking for a job and started working and everything. And I see it also. I mean, I think that this has got nothing to do with the generation in general, because we know it's changing now, the generations. But still, I think it's common for kids to just, I mean, kids, somebody who's 20 is not really a kid anymore, but still younger people, to somehow, connect success with money and with things that money can buy, and not so much the things maybe us a little bit older or very much older, as my kid would say, connect to, like peace and, I don't know, living in peace and not being disturbed by various things. And but for example, it's also interesting because, for example, my oldest kid doesn't want to go to work to London. He's
Really?
like, no, yeah, they're both in the UK, and he's like, no, I don't want to work in London. So it's interesting. But I think that he would connect with what you've said now in regards to money. And what it means and how it relates to.
Yeah. Like
okay,
even,
but
so sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say, just on that point of your son not wanting to work in London. I think even when I did work in London, the newer, younger people that were joining the team, they just couldn't believe that prior to 2020, you were in the office 5 days a week. I think it's just a bit of a change of the perspective of work and the perspective of remote working, being in the office. I think it's just so much has changed in the past few years that I think almost that glamour of being up in London 5 days a week has changed, because there are alternatives now.
Yeah, UK is full of big cities as well, and also corporations are now not so much centered anymore in the city. It's also in other big cities. I mean, bigger cities, not so big as London, but still. Okay, living in a city also brought something, addiction. And you've said that it's also been spanning for over 15 years, and this has obviously changed now. But still, when did drinking or using become part of your life? And looking back now, what do you think it was doing for you at the time? Was it also somehow connected with the success story that we were speaking about?
I think so. Yeah. I think if I look back and if I'm really honest with myself, I think I always had a bad relationship with alcohol, even when I was underage, but 16, 17. And when you're experimenting, you start going to parties and stuff. It was always very much drinking until I'd pass out, or drinking until I was being sick, and it was almost a bit of a status thing. I was almost quite proud of it. And I think obviously when you start seeing success, and like I said earlier, I always tied money to success. And I think when you start earning more money, you can then have more opportunity. I think my job as well, I was an insurance broker at first, so there was a lot of entertainment with clients, or clients taking me out. So just my whole world was just kind of focused around alcohol and going out. Obviously weekends with friends, midweek with work. And I think I was in denial for a long time. Obviously now looking back, I can really see that it was a problem. But back then I was always, it's not a problem. There's loads of people like me. So yeah, I think it's just something which, I think is quite normalized in society. I think, if a baby is born, you wet the baby's head, you go for a drink. If it's birthdays, you have a drink. Even if it's a funeral, you have a drink.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Even if somebody has a funeral, it's the same.
Yeah,
it's very much. Yeah.
I'm never one to preach about it, because each to their own. But I think society's kind of normalized it. And I think I just never was fully aware or fully accepted just the impact it was having on my life. I was just, pushing it to the back of my head, and just seeing it as fun, and just never really took hold of the impact it was having on me.
And now 3 years sober, how did you make this decision? Did something happen? And can you take us back to this moment? What happened? What shifted for you?
So I tried many a time to give up. I'd use that phrase, it's just the last time I'm going to do it. I'm never going to do it again. But I always kept on doing it again. And I think the moment that changed, I went on a stag do to Lisbon, or a bachelor party, if there's any US listeners. Went to Lisbon on like a party weekend. I just had a newborn, so I left my then wife and our 2 kids at home. And I remember it was just, I just wanted to just forget about responsibility, which was the main reason why I drank in the first place, just to forget about emotions, responsibility. On that stag do, I think I was awake for 48 hours, 2.5 days. I broke my collarbone, came back to the UK, wasn't able to look after my family. I wasn't able to be left alone with my newborn because I couldn't pick him up, I couldn't feed him, couldn't change his nappy. And I guess it was just a real kind of hitting home about the responsibility that I had as a parent, that I'd never had before. You know, there was loads of times before where I'd go out, I'd come home at stupid o'clock, I'd come home and, you know, go missing for days. But I think this was just a real kind of wake up call. I think I'd really kind of accepted the impact it was having, not just on me, but on my loved ones. And I think when I really took responsibility and really understood who I was as a person, I wasn't that young Tom that went out and could party all the time. I was a 30-year-old, had 2 kids, had a partner of 4 or 5 years at the time. And it was just that real big wake up call that I needed. And the positives that I thought I was getting from alcohol and drugs just weren't outweighing the negatives. The negatives were just stacking up compared to just a few hours of relief or a few hours of just escaping certain emotions.
Hmm. And those early days of sobriety or months, these are usually the hardest, at least from experience. What actually made you persistent in your decision? Because I know it is hard also when you're usually, what happens is, you probably know yourself, you change the people you're surrounded with completely, because you cannot hang out with the same people anymore, because suddenly you're not part of the team anymore, because you're not drinking and suddenly you're sober, and everybody else isn't. So how was it for you? How did you overcome these challenges?
Yeah, so it was definitely difficult. You know, I'm never going to sugarcoat it. It was definitely difficult. But I really think there was just such a kind of shift in my head about that responsibility. And I think a big word that come up when I was talking with my partner about like going sober was just around like respect. I think I had a newfound respect, not just for me, not just for my life, but for her and for the kids. I'd obviously been very selfish in the years beforehand, which had obviously caused, just a lot of like pain on people just by going out, saying I'd quit, would never quit, and would keep falling back into bad habits. But I think just newfound respect, just really understanding about accepting about what impact I was having, having that awareness of what the impact I was having on other people. And it almost made it not an easy decision, but it was a lot easier to say no, because I knew I was just so aware of the impact it would have. And I just had such a determination and such a motivation to almost prove people wrong. I had people saying to me, you won't do it. I've heard it before. You always say this. And it was almost like, no, like I've got that new respect now. I've got this responsibility. I'm going to prove you wrong. Like I'm going to do this for me, and you're all going to be proved wrong at how, I guess, just motivated I am now to make it stick. And obviously that last week, 2 weeks ago, hit my 3-year sobriety. And we'll literally never look back. It's something which just I have no temptation at all. It's literally like a switch has flipped in my head and there's just no going back. So very, very grateful to be in the position I am now.
Yeah, congratulations. I know that it's a huge milestone, so I'm really happy for you that you decided to do it. Now let's cheer up the conversation. Moving abroad. How did this happen? What made you decide to do so?
My wife is probably the biggest person I can credit for it. She's always wanted to move away. She's always said that we were going to move away, and I'd always change the subject. I'd always kind of push past and talk about something else. But I think from becoming sober, I just had so much more clarity in life. I really understood who I was as a person. I think going back to that first question you asked about what my childhood was like, I think I've just really discovered who I am as a person. And I think I've just learned to not care what other people think. I had such a either fear of judgment or just fear of thinking what other people would think about the actions that I would do, which I think was probably a big reason why I drank, because it meant I could just forget about that responsibility. And I think going sober just meant that I don't care what you think about what I'm doing, because it's serving me and my family to our best interests. At the start of the year, packed up everything, sold everything, packed up the small belongings we had, booked a one-way flight, was in Thailand when we first connected. I've obviously flown to Malaysia now. We're just trying to live as best life as possible, give the best life for our kids. And just try to break away from those societal norms of, staying in one place and progressing up the career ladder. And we're just trying to break free, basically.
Owning as many things as possible. This is also one
Exactly,
of
yeah.
the things that's, it's really showing in a society. Tell us a little bit about world schooling. I think that this is something that maybe a lot of listeners will consider or did consider already, those that have children. Tell us a little bit more. What does it look like for your family day to day, and what made you choose this path for your children as well?
Yeah, so I think it goes back to what I said just then about just wanting the best for our children. And we just saw that as leaving the UK. And I think coming hand in hand with that was homeschooling, or obviously world schooling now because we're outside of the UK. And for people that don't know, it's basically schooling, but using the real world, using culture, and just learning through living. So I guess a couple of examples. Like recently, we're in a small town in Malaysia called Ipoh, and they've got these 400 million year old caves. So not through any educational reason, we went to these caves more for, it's just a fun family day out. But as a secondary part of that fun family day out, our 12-year-old daughter can learn about how caves are formed, the stalagmites, the stalactites, and it's just about learning through experience rather than being sat in the classroom. When we were in Thailand, like we were snorkeling with fish. So we'd go back home and we'd learn what fish we just saw. Our daughter got stung by a jellyfish, but she's now learned how to deal with a jellyfish sting, which you probably wouldn't learn about in school. It's more about just the life lessons you can learn, traveling the world, experiencing new cultures, and ultimately tailoring an education that our daughter and our son want to learn about, rather than being forced to learn what's in the curriculum. They pick out stuff that they're interested in, and naturally they're going to be more interested in learning about stuff they've got, interest in. So, it's not easy, but it's rewarding when you can see how much enjoyment they get versus not so much the pain that school was causing, but just the uneasiness that school was causing our daughter. So, it just goes back to having that freedom to do what we want and provide the best life for our children.
Yeah, because I think a lot of families with children, I think children are some kind of an anchor in a way that a lot of people can maybe not imagine how would this even look like taking them out of school and then like homeschooling, world schooling, whatever. I mean, but there are possibilities. Obviously, you guys are the proof for that. So there are ways. It's not like having kids. It's an anchor for you to stay there forever if you don't like it. Just, it is possible to move if you really want to. But we also know that a family with 2 kids on travel, it's not always so cool and so simple as it's seen on an Instagram reel, right?
Definitely.
What are the real challenges of traveling abroad? Is it like maybe language, cultural barriers, and I don't know, something that I probably missed?
I think a big thing for us has been just that reality versus expectation. Obviously, back in the UK, we'd planned this for quite a long time, and we almost had an expectation of what traveling would be like, what world schooling would be like. But until you actually do it, you're never going to know what works well for your family. We've been doing it 3 months now, and I think we've finally understood how we work as a family. Obviously, every family is going to be different. I think in terms of the challenges, it's just it is difficult moving around from place to place. It obviously sounds great that you can travel the world and see all these places, but it's unsettling moving. Obviously, leaving the UK as a whole is unsettling, but if you're starting to get settled in one place and then you have to pack all your stuff up and then move somewhere else, get on trains, get on planes and stuff like that, I think the biggest thing has just been just the stress or the unsettledness that it causes when you do move around from place to place. So we had this vision of moving every 2 weeks, moving every 3 weeks to try to see as much of Thailand or as much as Malaysia as possible. But we've just learned to slow down a little bit. We've just learned to just listen to what our whole family needs. Like we have regular family meetings where, our son that's 3, our daughter that's 12, they'll tell us what they think is working, what they think is not working. and we just listen and we just adapt to things like that. So we spent about 6 weeks in Krabi in Thailand, which was the longest we've stayed in any place, but it was probably the best experience because we got to really know where certain things were. We got, just a lot of routine sorted. I think the culture's been probably a really good thing to have, because we've really kind of lent into the local culture, tried local food, tried to pick up, some Malay as the language. We learnt some Thai stuff as well. So, I think it's just not being so fixed to what your expectations are and just learning as you go along and just always making sure that, it's suiting everyone in the family. And if something's not working, don't try and force it to work. Just sit down and let's plan something that does tick everyone's boxes.
Yeah, and it's also this thought, what I always say to people, because we've also moved countries, and it's always, you can always go back. It's not like, it's you always have this possibility. You're always going to be British citizen. You can always go back and start anew. It's not like, I think people are particularly focused in this. It's not a failure, but what if something happens and we are not going to make it? But it's not a big deal at all. You can always do it. You can always go back if something is not working. That's at least how I always say. It's really not a big deal.
Yeah, like that phrase there, it's not a big deal. Like that's something that we've really lived by. Or like, what is the worst case scenario? Like the absolute worst case scenario in 6 months' time, if my online job doesn't work out or the kids really don't get on with homeschooling, the absolute worst case scenario is we go back to the UK and we replan. And we've had 6 months of traveling around. Is that really a worst case scenario? Like, not really. That's like we've had 6 months of our lives. So it's just asking yourself, like, what is the worst case scenario? And rather than thinking, what if it doesn't work? Well, just flip that round. What if it does work? What if it, what if our careers do take off? What if the kids love traveling? Just to try and have that positive spin on it. So like, what if it does work? That kind of change of perspective has really helped us as well.
True. Tell us a little bit now more about what do you do? So you've mentioned coaching and recovery business. Tell me a little bit more. What do you do in life now?
Yeah, so I help people basically break free from addiction. I had worked in the city, like I said, City of London, and I'd always liked helping people. I'd always liked that kind of feeling of being a positive impact on someone. And a bit of a phrase that I like to say now is I want to be the person that I wish I had when I was in the depths of my addiction. I basically coach people from a place of addiction into a place of recovery, where my little phrase is just building a life where you don't need to escape from it. It's coaching, just supporting people through addictions they've got, primarily alcohol and cocaine, because that was my kind of, that's what I know, that's my lived experience. Just trying to have a bit of, positive impact on the world, basically, and try to improve people's lives.
A lot of things have happened for you in the past 15 years. So like sobriety, fatherhood, world schooling, building a business, new country, moving along, and so on. So there's a lot of identity changes happening all at once. How do you understand who you are now compared to what you were like 15 years ago in the city when you started?
Yeah, I think I've just really learnt to be like authentically me. I think for a long time, as I've mentioned a few times, I was worried about other people's opinions. I wouldn't want to do certain things out of fear of judgment. But I've just got a real strong belief now that if I want to do something, then I'm going to do it. It doesn't matter what you think about it. If it's going to improve my life, if it's going to improve our kids' lives, then I don't really value your viewpoint, because I'm not going to let you impact what I want to do. I think just not being scared of being myself, I think, has been a real big thing. And that whole identity piece, that's how I really like to work with my clients. It's the kind of final piece of the puzzle. I always say that sobriety is giving up alcohol, giving up drugs, but moving into recovery is where you create that life, like I said, that you don't need to escape from. And I feel like that's what I've done. I've not just given up drink and drugs and then still stayed working in the city, still stayed in the UK. I've given that up, but I've created something that suits me, and I've just created that life of world schooling, traveling, because it's what I want to do. It's what I find exciting. It's what gets me up in the morning. So yes, it is a big change, but it's almost a changing back to who I really was. And it's effortless to be who you are, but it's a lot of effort. It's very tiring to be someone that you're not. And I think I spent so long putting up that false bravado, being someone that I wasn't. And that was almost more difficult. But being authentically you is effortless, because you can just be naturally yourself. And that's how I feel now. You know, I'm 33. I've never been happier. And I'm genuinely excited every morning to wake up and just see what life has for us. So yeah, that's where I am now.
No, it's amazing to hear. Wrapping up the conversation, for somebody listening right now and quietly wondering whether this is living in addiction or maybe thinking how to move abroad or whatever, what would you most want them to hear from you today? What would be your, I don't know, one-liner or an advice or something to wrap it up?
I think it would just be, if you want to do something, just do it. Like live deliberately. For a long time, I had that viewpoint of you only live once. So I was going to do as, drink as much as I wanted to, do as many drugs as I wanted to, spend the money I had. But now I've got that viewpoint of life is short, so live it deliberately. I would hate to be, in my 80s, in my 90s and think, oh, I wish I'd done that. I wish I'd done this. You literally can't go back and change the past. So living with regret is something that I really don't want to do anymore. So if you've got a plan, if you've got a vision, if you've got something that you want to do, like just go and do it, and just have that, that thing I said earlier of like, what is the worst that can happen? I think as long as you're sensible, as long as you can plan, and as long as you've made some sensible choices to make it the most sensible option, then yeah, just live your life to the full. You only get one life. Live it deliberately, and live it intentionally.
Yeah, you've said you can't change the past, but what you can definitely do is change your future. And this is great what you said. Just do it. I totally agree with you, because you might never get a second chance to do it again. It might never come. And so if you want to do it, just do it. I agree with you.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and that's our kind of our one mantra is just to create as many memories as possible and just to live our dreams. And hopefully we can just continue to do that. So.
Yeah. Tom, thank you so much. I think it was a really lovely conversation. Time just flew. Once again, I don't know where half an hour went, but I'm monitoring the time and I'm like, what? So thank you really so much. I think it was a really inspiring conversation as well. And I think that people who maybe are quietly thinking about making some significant changes in their lives, that maybe will find their final nudge to do so by listening to our talk.
Fingers crossed, yeah. If I can impact one person, then I feel like I've done good. So yeah, that's the hope for all the listeners out there.
Great. Thank you so much once again.
No worries.